Good.
Good, good.
Okay.
How are you, Mahesh?
I'm good, yeah, I'm good. Have you all got the recordings? Last week's recordings?
Yes.
Have you all gone through that? Do you have any questions for me?
I didn't get last week's recording, so.
Yeah, I didn't get them either.
Oh, is it? I'll talk to the organizers today. Only the last session that is on Friday, or the remaining recordings also. Mohammed?
I didn't get any recordings till now.
It was for, remember the stuff that you said for us to look at and go over before today's. I didn't get any of that. I got the session recording, but none of that extra stuff that we were supposed to get.
So you meant to say the one which is started after a break in between, right? Those all sessions you didn't.
Yeah, the one that you said that you were going to send over, and then we should look over on our Saturday night, and then.
You didn't receive it?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Let me talk to the organizer. Sure. I'll see that today, and I'll see you'll get it by your morning tomorrow. Okay. Okay, guys. Today I just want to analyze where we are in terms of understanding the HDFS architecture, which we have gone through since from a week or so. I have some questions with you. Let's go through the questionnaire and analyze how good are we in HDFS architecture. Okay. Can I go ahead and ask some questions? Everyone, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mahesh.
Good. We have something called as daemons in Hadoop. Can anyone help me out and tell me the daemons and their role in Hadoop cluster?
Yeah, we have total five daemons.
Okay.
So name node, secondary name node, job tracker, task tracker, and data node.
That's it. You said only 4.
No, I five. Name
What
node,
about
secondary.
what about resource manager? We have something called as okay. Tell me what name node does.
It is the backbone of the system. It stores metadata of all the data in data nodes.
Okay. So how does the information is stored?
Using rack awareness mechanism used by name node along with the switches.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, sure.
I
That
mean,
it uses rack awareness.
using rack awareness and resource manager.
Rack awareness and resource manager. I didn't got you, Mukul.
Sorry.
I didn't got your answer. Can you please repeat that? What is rack awareness doing in name node?
I mean, your question was how the data is stored, right?
Yeah. What is the role of a name node in Hadoop as a daemon? Yeah, I completely agree that it stores the metadata content and all the files and directories. Okay. What in what format? Okay, it has information in the format of blocks, which makes a file. Okay.
Okay.
And all these blocks are located inside the cluster. Okay. So that's what a name node is. So Hemant, Mohammed, Dhruv, what is a data node, guys? Data node or secondary name node?
Name node also is responsible for delegation, right? Delegation of the task that you give the you give a task. Name node delegates the work amongst different.
How does it delegate? How does it delegate the task?
It gives it to the job tracker, which gives it to the task tracker.
Sorry, Mohammed.
It gives the job tracker that's on the name node. The name node gives the whatever needs to be processed goes to a job tracker, that assigns it to the task tracker of the data nodes themselves. So that's where it delegates its process.
Once it is assigned to the task tracker, what happens internally?
Once the data is given in internally to the task tracker, that's when it is put to the data nodes themselves. That's where each data node that has a task tracker attached to it will report back with whatever processes are done in the data node.
Okay. What about secondary name node then?
Secondary name node is basically a backup to the primary name node. At the same time, it also keeps log files of what's going on between the data node and the name node itself.
In case of failures, right? It's like, you know, secondary name node is mostly used to merge changes in the name node with the edit log, so that it doesn't grow too large in size. It keeps a copy of the image which can be used in case of failures of name node. Okay. Now, what about job tracker and task tracker? Also about resource manager guys. What is job tracker guys?
It job tracker. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Come on, yeah, anyone, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Mohammed.
Job tracker basically tracks all the jobs that are input into the system, and it gets feedback from the task tracker.
Okay. Mukul?
Job tracker is the one to which client applications submit MapReduce programs, and it schedules client jobs and allocate tasks to data node to task trackers and that are running on individual worker machines. So job tracker manages overall execution of MapReduce jobs.
What worker machine in the sense what will be available in those worker machines?
The data node. So
name node, buddy, name node. See, job tracker is a daemon that runs on name node, Mukul. Okay, not data node. Okay.
Right.
And yeah, as you said, it will submit. Yes, Mohammed. It submits and tracks all the jobs, you know, MapReduce jobs in Hadoop, and it assigns tasks to different task trackers here. So task tracker runs on data node, job tracker runs on name node. Okay.
Okay.
Please remember this. Okay. Resource manager. We have forgot resource manager totally. What does resource manager do?
Does it allocate the resources that are needed in order to complete the job or whatever task is given?
It manages, Mohammed. It's a kind of a central authority wherein it manages the resources, schedules the application running on top of YAML. Okay. Cool. These are the main daemons that we do have in Hadoop. And can anyone tell me what are the Hadoop tools that we require working on big data? I'm just rephrasing my question here. I just wanted to know how will you get it.
Well, you have various tools. You have Hive, you have Yarn, you have Scoop, you have Flume. Oozie is one of them as well too, and then you have Hive. Was it Zookeeper?
Got it, Mohammed. Yeah, got it. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Can anyone tell me the difference between Hadoop one and I'm sorry, Mohammed. Yes.
No, I just said Spark is another one.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Never mind. You're fine.
Okay. Can anyone tell me the difference between Hadoop 1 and 2? No.
From Hadoop 1.0 and 2.0, they have redefined the architecture and they have relocated the Hive base. They have separated from the central part. Also, the name node and the secondary name node in 1.0, secondary name node was just storing the metadata, while
In the 2.0, secondary name node is the exact application of the name node.
What happens by that? What is the advantage of that?
Advantage of that is if any disaster, talking about the disaster recovery, we can quickly switch on to secondary name node and our work can resume efficiently.
Okay. Yes, it's like in Hadoop. Yeah. Yes, Mohammed.
Block size is different. Default
Yes.
block size in 1 is 64 and default block size in 2 is 128.
Eight. Okay. And any other difference, guys?
Yeah, in 1.0 there was no concept of YARN resource manager, and in 2.0 YARN was
Okay. And okay, let me conclude. Yes, guys, most of the points are very absolutely fine. In Hadoop 1.0, name node is a single point of failure. In Hadoop 2.0, we have active and passive name nodes. Okay, so if active name node fails, the passive name node takes charge. That is how in Hadoop 2.0 is. Okay, and also in Hadoop 2.0, as we said, YARN provides a central resource manager. With YARN, you can run multiple applications in Hadoop, sharing a common resource, and this is called as MR2 in particular. It's a type of distributed application that runs a MapReduce framework on top of YARN. That's the biggest advantage in Hadoop 2.0, or a difference between 1.0 and 2.0. You can also perform data processing via YARN, and then it was the biggest problem in 1.0, but in 2.0 that has been taken care of. Okay. Now I was talking about active and passive name nodes. Let's discuss about them a little. In Hadoop 2.0, we have two name nodes, active name node and passive name nodes. Active name node is the one which works or runs in the cluster. Passive name node is a standby name node which has similar data as active name node. When the active name node fails, the passive name node replaces the active. So the cluster never without a name node is to never fail, or so it never fails. It will have active and passive name nodes running one beside the other. Okay. What else we have? HDFS. Now, isn't that, what, guys, I have two clients. I'm trying to access the same file on HDFS. What happens then? Remember the blocks? Remember the blocks concept, everyone? I have two clients, guys, and I'm trying to access the same file on HDFS. What happens when I do that?
both clients can access multiple copies stored in
Your
different
voice is
racks.
breaking, buddy.
Both the clients can access multiple copies stored in different racks. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, Dhruv, your voice is breaking, buddy.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, Dhruv.
Yeah, I was saying that both the clients can access multiple copies that are stored in different racks as per the decision made by switch and the name node.
Okay. So what happens to the second file which I'm trying to access? Or the same file which I'm trying to access through a different client? Hemant? Hemant, are you there? Oh, okay. Hemant, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. What's up, buddy?
You asked a question?
Yeah, I'm saying I have two clients wherein I'm trying to access the same file from those two clients on HDFS. What happens when I do that?
Okay, I would imagine they would be given access to different copies of the same file that are replicated anyways, so that it'll be easier for them to access.
So will I be able to access the file from the two clients directly? Or
Yeah,
no?
The two clients will be given access to different copies of the same file on the HDFS. The file is replicated, right?
You're sure on that?
No, I'm not sure. I'm taking a guess here.
Okay, Mukul? Muhammad? Dhruv?
Um,
So
Yes, Mukul, I'm here.
yeah, I think two clients cannot access the same file at the same time.
Okay, why? Why is that so?
I
Reason, buddy,
believe that
reason.
when the file is stored initially, there's a primary copy and then there's a secondary and a tertiary copy. I think those secondary and tertiary copies are supposed to be only for if any of the racks goes down, they're then supposed to be pulled from the rack itself. Otherwise, the primary copy is the one that that the client will only access. It can't access the other two secondary and tertiary copies. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what it is?
That's called as granting a lease to the client. Like guys, when the first client contacts a name node to open some file for writing or reading or for some purpose, name node grants lease to the client to create a file. Probably when the second client tries to open the same file for writing, name node will immediately notice that request then and finds that there is a lease already given or granted to the other client, and it will simply reject opening the request for that second client. As simple as that. So the lease that is granted for editing or writing or deleting or whatever is already available for client 1. So name node will take care of entire thing, but it will reject that request coming from the second client. Okay?
So even reading is not allowed then?
It will not open, buddy. It will not allow you to do any sort of changes.
Oh,
It will
okay.
reject. It will reject the opening of the file itself. Now, if the file is not open, where will you read it from?
What is the reason for this? Like, why can't
Because as a replication process, if only one fails, then only it will switch back to the second one. But my first request is already available within the client, and my file is up and running. I can directly access that file which I have from and receive it again back in or vice versa. The file is ready to be accessed from anywhere. So one client is already there accessing the file, and from the second client, if it is accessing the same file in the same rack, as Mohammed said, if one rack fails, then only we switch to the next rack. So either you go to the next rack or the request or the replication process using the resource manager content, else it will just reject the opening of a file. In HDFS, that is how it is.
Okay.
Okay. Now, going ahead, guys, we have switches. Hope everybody remembers switches. Okay. How does one have a switch off in HDFS? Okay, not switches here. Let me talk about blocks first. Okay. Can anyone help me out understanding what a block is in HDFS?
A block is a space allocated within the rack itself.
Okay, for what purpose, buddy?
So you can store access data from it. Now, depending on what you're going to
Both for
process.
reading and writing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, block is a minimum amount of data. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Mohammed.
No, I was just going to say, depending on the size of the data that you're putting in, it can either fill up the whole block, or that block can
Yes.
hold off a separate portion of it.
So it's like a minimum amount of data that can be read or written.
Yes.
And files in HDFS are broken down into blocked size units, where you store the data as independent units inside each block. So as Mohammed said earlier, Hadoop 1 is with 64 MB block size, Hadoop 2 has a default of 128 MB, and blocks can be configured, guys, using something called as a dfs.block size. Parameter can be used in HDFS side. You know, we are going to work on daemons with HDFS XML files to set the size of a block in Hadoop environment. You can configure the file at any point of time. Now, talking about rack awareness, what is rack awareness in Hadoop, guys? Guys, today I just want to analyze where we are standing in terms of, because I have only a few slides for this first module to be covered with. I'm done here. So this is the agenda for the next session. We are going to go for the next session agenda. I'm walking you. I just want to analyze where we are. Okay. Please be
Rack
with me answering
awareness.
the questions, or else I'm. Yes, Mohammed.
Rack awareness is it's basically the awareness of the system to know which files are being the file that's being replicated, which I guess place it's going to be primarily first, and then it's going to go to a different rack if it's in that order. So the first one would be the first rack, and then the next replication of that file should be in the second, and right underneath that should be another replication of that, and it goes in that type of order, so that way it kind of spreads out the data, so there's fault tolerance, and at the same time, I mean, you control where you put the first piece of data, but the other two is basically controlled by the rack awareness system itself.
Okay. So what happens, when I'm trying to consider the replication factor 3 as a default?
You mean the replication?
Something called as replication factor. I have to consider. I have to consider the replication factor. So my replication factor number is 3 right now. So what happens in rack awareness?
Well, it'll be the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mohammed. Just give me a second.
Yeah, of course.
Hemant? Are you there, buddy?
So, yeah, I'm there. If the replication is factor is 3, the first copy would be made on one machine, on a node belonging to one rack, and the two other copies would be made on another rack, but on the same on 2 data nodes on the same rack. But it'll be a different rack from the first one.
Okay. Okay. So then
that's it. Like the 3 copies are made like this if the replication factor is 3.
Yeah. See, as Mohammed said, it's like it's a manner in which the name node decides how blocks are placed. Mukul, are you there? Dhruv? Yeah. So based on rack definitions, to minimize the network traffic between data nodes within the same rack, we go for rack awareness concept or the logic. See, let's say we consider the replication factor 3, the default which I'm talking about, and the policy is for every block of data, 2 copies will exist in one rack. Remember the rack awareness diagram which I showed you last time? So the third copy will be on a different rack. And this rule is called as replica placement policy, guys.
Right.
There will always be 2 racks at a minimum in a 3 default factor. 2 blocks will always be available in one rack. And the third block will be available in the different rack. So that when one rack goes down, the other rack will be available for us, and that is called as rack awareness logic. In one term, it is technically called as replacement, replica replacement policy. Okay. Now, guys, we all are learning about big data. Now, why do we use HDFS for applications that are having data sets? Not there are a lot of small files here. Why is that only HDFS for an application we have? Why should we go for HDFS applications which have large sets of data here? Guys, just give me your basic understanding. I'm okay with that. I need some answers. We discussed about big data content. We discussed about noding and the role of name node and everything in detail. So the ecosystem, the HDFS ecosystem itself. So I just want to analyze. Your understanding is that's fine. Even if it is a wrong answer, please don't worry. Please go ahead and answer.
Mahesh, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, we have HDFS for applications that have large sets of data, and not where there like when there is a small file, we will not go for HDFS. Why do we use HDFS for large applications, for large sets of data sets, large data sets here?
Because HDFS is mostly.
Sorry, HDFS is mostly.
It's mostly used for splitting up the data and using parallelism to process the data simultaneously because the data is so large.
Using what? Using what, buddy? Using what? That's the main important.
Using the concepts we discussed just now, we distribute data in data nodes, etc., and we use MapReduce programs to process these blocks of data individually, but simultaneously, so that we get a much faster results.
Yeah, sure, we'll go for name nodes and data nodes here.
I mean, they form the structure of the distributed processing that we want to do.
So it's like this. When it is with large sets of data, HDFS is most suitable for large amount of data sets. Okay, you agree with me, right? Everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. It is mostly used for large sets of data sets in a single file as compared to small amount of data spread across multiple files. This is because name node is very expensive, guys. High performance system, and it will not occupy the space in the name node. Unnecessarily, a few amount of metadata that are generated for multiple small files are considered, because where there is a large amount of data in a single file, name node will occupy less space. That is the reason it's little expensive here. So for getting optimized performance, HDFS supports large data sets instead of multiple small files. Got it, everyone?
Yeah.
Everybody? Okay. Now there is something called as RDBMS, guys. In the inception classes, I told you the difference. What is the difference between RDBMS and Hadoop?
RDBMS has structured data, and the schema is predetermined, while HDFS can also store unstructured data, and the schema can be decided on the fly upon your query.
Probably called as you have an option called processing, data processing in HDFS. So RDBMS is used for transactional systems, guys. When you report the archive and data here. Whereas Hadoop is an approach, it allows you to store and process huge amounts of data in a distributed file system. So RDBMS will be useful when you want to see one record from big data, whereas Hadoop will be useful when you want big data in one shot and perform analysis on that later. That's the major difference, guys. Okay? Everybody?
So RDBMS is for OLTP environment and Hadoop is for OLAP environment.
Big data environment. Mostly, it doesn't. I mean, it hardly matters what the environment setup is, but the amount of data that you are able to grab back again as a content, or do some processing here, or storing and processing, Hadoop is the best useful one, which allows, or which accepts the big data in one shot and perform the analysis on that later once it is received or once it is analyzed. Okay. Okay. What else we do have? Okay. Talking about the clusters, guys, there is something called as high availability in Hadoop. Hadoop cluster. So what does that mean? So guys, we have high availability in Hadoop cluster because it is in two ways. One is QJM and NFS, node file system. It will allow you to do the shared storage, and it is completely used only in Hadoop cluster name node process, both for reading and performing parallel writing availability, so that MapReduce program or any other person will be able to help out or help you out in splitting this block while reading and writing. There are various aspects here. Okay. Okay, let me ask you this way so that you can understand. Can you tell me the difference between HDFS block and an input split? You have HDFS blocks, right? When we type an input, we just divide them into parts. So what is the difference between a block and an input split? Hello, guys, are you there?
I didn't get your question.
No, I'm saying there is, hello, everyone, Dhruv, Hemant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have HDFS blocks, right? What is the difference between a HDFS block and an input split? See guys, input split is nothing but a text file wherein I have some identification factor like a comma or a period symbol. Wherever I see a comma, I split that file into two parts. So that's a normal input split. So what is the difference between HDFS blocking and an input split here? Only thing guys, with HDFS block, we consider it as a physical division of data. When I talk about input split, it is a logical division of data. Okay? Got it?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now talking about distribution mode, remember in name node or using the task tracker or node manager, we did walk through on distributed mode. Now what is a distributed mode guys?
Where your file is divided and stored at multiple locations.
For what purpose?
Access it quickly, faster.
I'll tell you, buddy, I'll tell you. See, it's something called as fully distributed mode. Okay, it is used in the production environment mostly, wherein we have n number of machines forming a Hadoop cluster. That's called as a fully distributed mode. So Hadoop daemons run on a cluster of machines, and there is one host on which name node runs and another host on which data node runs. And then there are machines on which tracker or node manager runs. So we have separate master and slaves in this sort of a distribution. Okay, so these are the main features of distributed node. So when name node goes down, data node takes care. Even if when data node is down, the task tracker or the node manager will run. So we have separate masters and slaves in sort of a distribution. Got it? Everyone?
No, Mahesh, I didn't understand fully what is distribution mode.
But we have something called as fully distributed mode in Hadoop. And this is a mode that is used in production deployments or production environments at a high level. So wherein, for example, assume that we have n number of machines forming a Hadoop cluster, like 10 or 20 for example. So Hadoop daemons run on a cluster of machines. So there is one host on which name node runs and another host on which data node runs. And then there are machines in the cluster which task tracker or node manager runs here. So we have something called as, we have a separate master and slave sort of distribution inside this. This process of distribution is called fully distributed mode. Got it?
So this is mainly the distribution where the data node and the secondary node, etc. They sit on different
Hosts.
yeah. So they sit on different nodes.
There is one host on which name node runs on another host, and
Right.
on which data node runs.
Okay.
So and then there are like machines on which task tracker and node manager runs. So they are like different machines.
So if the
Yes, buddy.
if the name node sits on the same host as say one of the if it's sitting on the same what do you say, the host as all the data nodes, so it won't be what is it called then?
No, see, when it is sitting on a host on which name node runs,
Yeah.
that is a cluster or a cluster of machines that is running on using Hadoop daemon,
Okay.
or the another host which data node runs, wherein data node sits, and then these are machines on which task tracker or the node manager runs. So it's like simultaneously both the name node and the data node which are available on another hosts or the different hosts will be executed using something called as a task tracker or a node manager. So we have something called as master and slave sort of distribution. So masters are name node and slaves are task tracker, or data node or the slave will be node manager. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. These are the main things which we came across. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
This is what is the client reading process of HDFS. We have switches here, we have data nodes and blah blah, which we discussed the last time. a small pictorial representation of how exactly the node clustering process goes on. Once a switch is assigned inside the data node 1 and data node 2, if these are accessible, if my switch 1 is down, immediately this rack will be transferred to something called as second, wherein I have the same blocks of data content called A. And using the switch, it will allow me to switch from one rack to another rack easily. And on the same rack, if you observe, you have block A twice, two sets of block of A. And likewise, in rack 3, we have two sets of block C. In rack 1, we have two sets of block B. So, if any one of the blocks goes down, for example, the first two blocks went down, I will have a hassle reading the block A, because on third rack, I don't have A at all. This is called as high availability, guys. Once you have a clarity on what exactly the speculative execution is Hadoop is running, for the tasks, maybe in the master node or maybe in the slave node or the name node, redundantly, the execution from one instance of the same task to another node will be taken care by a name node itself. The task is, it finishes first, will be accepted, and the other one is killed. So this process is called speculative execution. There is something called as speculative execution in Hadoop. So if a node appears to be running a task slowly, master node can redundantly execute another instance of the same task on another node. So the task which finishes first will be accepted and the other one is killed. This process of accessing your nodes or the task or getting the details about the tasks is called as, or killing the task once the other task is completed, and this procedure is called as speculative execution. So this is mostly done while we start reading the client files from the HDFS, and using the HDFS content we will be able to start working on. So this is what HDFS is at a high level. Now, on the screen you have other Hadoop distributions. Hemant, hopefully you are aware of Cloudera.
Yeah.
Mohammed?
Yes.
We also have called Horton Networks, and then comes the MapR distribution, the biggest thingy in Hadoop, both 1.0 and 2.0, the MapReduce content. So we're going to work with mostly with MapReduce, guys, and the environment setup is based on Ubuntu. And what about the installation, Hadoop installation process, everyone? You're able to create a virtual machine and install Hadoop, everyone? Are you executing daemons? Guys, so because we will not go through the installation process in this course content, so please let me know where you are, or you want me to help out setting up your VM. I'll help you out.
Could you just send us the instructions?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we don't have to do it in a session, but if you can give us a list of instructions of
Yes. How to install Hadoop and everything. Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Sure. And what else I was supposed to ask today? We discussed about HDFS blocks, discussed about fully distributed mode.
So this would have to be, would this have, the installation, would this have to be on Ubuntu only, or?
No, you can use any flavor of Linux, that's fine. No, I'm
Okay.
using Ubuntu. On my machine, I have Ubuntu. Hang on, let me show you here.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. You see my screen, everyone?
Yes.
So this is the VM, okay.
Yeah. So this is my VM wherein it's Ubuntu latest 16. Oh, sorry. Okay. There it is.
I have Mint myself.
That's fine. But I'm not saying no for that. I'm
Okay.
saying I have a VM set up on Ubuntu, so we are going to install Hadoop on this, and we are going to start working on MapReduce cluster. Going ahead, we have something called as advanced MapReduce concept, and we are going to discuss about MapReduce framework at a high level. Now, let's have a small intro about MapReduce framework today, and let's take care of MapReduce. Now, guys, in Hadoop, the main configuration parameter in MapReduce program is users of a MapReduce framework need to specify certain parameters, something like this. Let me open a notepad. You see, everybody talks about MapReduce, blah blah, definitions and blah and all. But main things that a framework being MapReduce need to specify when started or it starts executing its parameters or reducing a MapReduce program, executing a MapReduce program, what are the parameters needed? We know what jobs are in cluster. We know how input format will be and an output format will be in Hadoop HDFS file system or the ecosystem. MapReduce takes advantage of the distributed file system across, for which the parameters are jobs input location in the distributed file system. Next one is jobs output location in the distributed file system. Third one is we have something called as input format and output format. Okay. Fifth one is class containing the map function and class containing the reduce function. Everyone, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
These are the main parameters that we MapReduce takes, or the users of MapReduce frameworks need to specify when they start working with Hadoop. So we have something called as input type format in MapReduce. So what happens is you need to add or reduce or a reducer to execute your program. We cannot perform additions in a mapper because sorting does not occur in mapper. Sorting occurs only in a reducer. So there is a difference, guys. What is map and what is reduce? Now let's talk about that in detail. But before that, let's talk about the MapReduce framework and then understand why is it we need to go for MapReduce and what is MapReduce. Guys, MapReduce is a framework or a programming model that is used to process large sets of data over a cluster of computers using distributed programming. Shall I write it here? Everyone, are you with me?
Yes.
This is what MapReduce is. And the syntax that run my MapReduce program is, it will be Hadoop space my jar file name dot jar with extension slash input underscore path slash output underscore path. This is how I start running my MapReduce program. Any program. The input and output path will be different. So that's how it starts working on. Mohammed, hopefully you have started working on your, what you said, what that program is here. Yeah, that word count program, etc. Blah, blah. Remember, Mohammed?
Yeah.
We're talking about this? Okay. Now, whenever there is a code issues that is coming up inside my Hadoop framework or maybe my MapReduce program, we use something called as counters. Mohammed, that is the reason they come across a program called word count. Word count. So there are many ways in debugging Hadoop codes, guys. The most popular methods to debug in Hadoop code is using counters. Let me write it properly. Debug, or else I can say debugging Hadoop code. Okay. First one is using counters. Next one is using the web interface provided by the Hadoop framework. These are the main things that we need to take care of while working with or debugging a Hadoop code. So the main configuration setup, as I said, these are the main configuration setup that you need to take care while starting on with parameterizing or configuration parameters in MapReduce program. And there is something called as a default type in MapReduce, guys. Always the default type in MapReduce is a text format. Input type, okay, default input type. You can say default input, right?
It's basically text input format.
Yes, it's a basic format, buddy. Something like this. Okay. So whenever you are supposed to start working on a default file content, we go with something called as input split method. Just now we talked about input split or the block size. The purpose of a record reader here in Hadoop is whenever my MapReduce program is performing something called as a distributed caching, a feature provided by MapReduce program. It is used when you want to share files across multiple nodes in Hadoop cluster, so that the files could reside as executable jars for a simple properties file. Guys, I'll repeat it slowly. Please concentrate everyone. In Hadoop or MapReduce content or MapReduce framework, we have something called as record reader, which allows you to define or slice or break down a work or a job and defines or describes how to access it. So the record reader is a class which loads the data from its source and converts it into key value pairs. Then only it will be suitable for reading the mapper. So the record reader instance is defined by the input parameter in MapReduce. Let me write it. You didn't got it, I believe. Everyone.
Yeah.
You didn't
That's
got it,
like,
right?
yeah, that's like int writable and text and
Yes, yes, buddy. Yes. I don't know if others are not talking here. Dhruv, Mukul, Hemant. Hang on,
Yep.
let me write it.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Guys, if you don't understand, please stop me or else, reply back, guys. Your silence will not help me out. Okay, but does not, see, I'm writing it anyhow, not describe how to access it. So the record reader class loads the data from its source and converts into something called as key value pairs.
Mahesh, I didn't understand the first line. In the input split defines a slice of work. What does that mean?
I'm coming there, buddy. I'm coming there. Called as input format. The input split, buddy. We discussed about what an input split is and the block is in HDFS block sizes, right? Remember just now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is that input split is? HDFS block is a physical division, whereas input split is a logical division of a data. So what input split defines or does is, it defines the logically splitted data and describes how to access that data for us, for which we have something called as record reader class. Guys, everyone. So the record reader class is a format which allows or converts into key value pairs. And these are the format which is suitable for reading the mapper. So the record reader instance is defined by the input format which you suffice or which you provide into your MapReduce framework. Okay? And while doing this, MapReduce takes something called as distributed caching. Yes, are you getting it? while doing this record reader or the performance of the record reader value is done for key value pairs, MapReduce framework does start working on something called as a distributed cache. So it is an important feature. Provided. Hemant, Dhruv, are you there?
Yeah, I have a few doubts. I'll ask you once you finish this.
Yeah, let me complete this. Views. Yeah. Share files. Across multiple nodes. .jar file or a simple properties file. So it is this. Yes, Hemant.
Yeah, so the record reader, it's a Java class, right, in Hadoop,
Yes.
am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so the input split being done here, who's doing it? The record reader class?
No. See,
Who's doing the input?
you're doing a blocks in Hadoop, right? Who is
Right.
setting those blocks? We are
Who's
doing
setting?
that. We are creating those blocks and dividing it and giving it across to, so that the default content would be like basing upon the size of the default content in Hadoop 2.0 or HDFS cluster.
So the client itself is doing the input split, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So that this record reader class takes control on that splitted content,
Right.
and makes it as a source for converting it into key value pairs.
Right. It makes the source for the mapper class basically, right?
Yes. So that the mapper class it will be easy for the mapper class to read it as a key value pairs.
Right.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah, got that.
Guys,
And
there is yes, buddy.
yeah, so coming to the next part, so the distributed cache, what does it do exactly?
What does distributed cache do is it will allow you to share files across multiple nodes in Hadoop cluster.
Right.
Because even when my mapper is making it ready to read the file, where should I read the file? Where should I process the content? There should be a location for executing. And for
Right.
that execution, it will take the help of a jar file or a properties file. So once the input format is decided in a key value pair, it will be distributed in the cache in the MapReduce framework. So this is a third part in MapReduce framework base. Okay. Everyone, Mukul?
Mahesh, I didn't understand distributed cache.
Nothing much, buddy. What it does is, once the splitting of data content is done and made it readily available in key value pairs for reading by the mapper, this content will be shared across files, shared in a format of files across multiple nodes in Hadoop cluster, so that the processing can be done on various places at a time, and the file resides as an executable jar content. So that if you want to execute, you can execute. If you want to process, you can process. You can store. Anything can be done. So this is called as distributed cache in MapReduce framework. Got it?
Okay, so when Datanode wants to implement MapReduce, it will have a copy of jar file from this distributed cache, right?
Name node, buddy. Say it as a name node.
Okay.
Name node Yes, 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 Mukul.
But the MapReduce job is executed in data node, right?
Yes, but data node, where is this data node available? It's available in the name node, right?
Yeah, they are available in slaves.
Yeah. Then when you are inside one of the rack using a cluster, if one rack goes down, what happens? It will switch to the another rack wherein you have a data node content inside those racks.
Right.
So obviously, name node is the person who is taking control over there, and that fellow will start distributing your content. Once it is distributed, then it comes to data node, wherein the distributed caching is done, and the files are executed. And while executing, map or reduce are the content, or the ones which starts communicating with each other. And guys, you know, map reduce program, as I said, it's a model. It does not allow reducers to communicate with each other. Reducers run in an isolated format. Everyone, please be with me. When we are in the data node content, as Mukul asked, the content has to be executed. So while executing, MapReduce program model does not allow reducers to communicate with each other, guys. Reducers run in an isolated format. They run on their own self. So that reducers is something called, it allows you to join data as one of the most important aspects. It allows to organize the data. It will allow reducers, it will allow you to check a complete instance of the data content inside your node, inside your data node, I mean. So that is what a reducer is. And then comes the map. So these two are different. While executing, these two are different. Okay. Now after that we have something called as combiner. Guys, did you got the concept which I said? Everyone? No, yes?
No,
I
no.
do, yes.
Okay, I'll repeat it again. Hang on. See guys, I'm saying, yeah, yes, Mukul.
Yeah, I'll tell you what part I didn't understand. So you said name node distributes this jar file, right?
See, but data node distributes the jar content, buddy, because inside the data node only the processing goes on. But where is this data node available? This is available inside name node, right? So the record reader is a Java class content which will allow you to load the data as a source, converts it into key value pair, readable by the mapper. Once done, that converted content is taken care by the MapReduce framework. I mean, when I say taken care, it says it does something called as distributing the cache, and it will share the file across multiple nodes in Hadoop cluster. And when you want to execute the file, it will be stored in the format of a jar file only, so that it can execute very easily. Are you clear so far, Mukul?
Yeah, I'm clear for. I mean, I understood rest of the part, but when you are saying that data node is available in name node, so why are you saying name node and why not data node? Because data is
but the controller on the top, who is the controller here? Name node.
of course name node.
Right. Now, when you are saying data node is a replication available in various clusters, buddy.
Right.
Various machines, for example.
Yes.
So if one data node fails, immediately a switch takes me to the other machine, and likewise vice versa. But the processing is done at a data node, I completely agree. But without which you cannot work on any of the distributed system patterns, because Hadoop's distribution pattern is something like whenever you have an independent values to be executed or processed at a specific location, it does not have any identifiers there. Now, which process to or which data to execute or which data to process, nothing.
Right.
This will be taken care and decided by the switches there. So switch will make you understand which one is available for which rack is available for data processing. Once you have a content there, you have to execute the code inside your data, inside your cluster, or inside your map, inside your rack, or inside your machine. So while executing, name node doesn't take care of, data node doesn't take care of. There comes something called as mappers or MapReduce. That is the reason they split the work into parts and then helps you to access it with a class called record reader. Okay.
Okay.
And the data which is coming as a source is converted into key value pairs so that it is easily readable by the mapper function. Got it?
Yeah.
This
So
data.
yes, Hemant.
This data is distributed in the distributed cache, as you said, right?
Guys, distribution, when I say distribution, is not the internal data. The clustering process is distributed. The job is distributed across a name, across cluster of machines. And when trying to access those machines, or when trying to process and storage is done, when trying to process, I need to execute the data. Now, how will I execute the data? Through this mapper. Okay.
So what is in the form of a jar file that you have written? The file should be reside
it can be a jar file, it can be a properties file also, Hemant.
So this is the data that is converted into key value pairs. That is the data you're talking about, right? That has been converted into a jar file now, or a properties file.
Yes, buddy. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And when I have to execute a file, I need to go into one of the racks here. If one rack is down, the same kind of a jar file should be available in another rack also, as like the same data which we have, like the data node or a name node.
Right.
So for that, Hadoop or the MapReduce framework takes something called as a distributed caching. That means you will have your executable jar files in all the racks as a replication you do. I'm sorry, I should not use replication here. I'm making it for your understanding. So this is called as distribution of cache symbol. Okay. So wherein you share your files across multiple nodes in Hadoop cluster. And as the file is residing in a jar format, we can execute the file and you can play around.
So
it's all yours.
These key value pairs will be different for different data nodes, right? I mean,
no, let's not talk about them right away, because when I go talk about differences between key value pairs and one cluster to another cluster, yes, they are different. But only thing that you need to take care of is what is considered as key and what is considered as value. They are separate guys. They are not one.
No. What I mean is the data in the distributed cache, right? So you're saying it's common. It's being shared by all the data nodes basically, right? So this entire data is it's not split into different chunks and given to different nodes. It's just at one place.
It is distributed, not splitting.
Right.
It is distributed in an independent cache format and then saved inside your various clusters, Hadoop clusters.
So different copies are made of the same data.
No, don't say copies again. That's what I'm saying. This is not replication, buddy.
Okay.
No. Replication concept is different. Replication concept is like the same file attached all over. But here, the execution format is attached for the executed or for the file that is stored inside the cluster. See, in replication, we store the same copy of files everywhere, right?
Right.
Right. What is the purpose of replication? If one goes down, you go to the next rack and then execute it. But while executing, I need somebody to execute it. I need a format for that execution. And this somebody is called as a distributed cache provided by your mapper function in a .jar format. And this is a replica only, not not as if like a normal versioning process. It will not distribute it. It is not separated as a splitting concept. It is just distributed. The jar file is distributed all across racks, and you can execute a jar content. Simply, it will process the data as and when you start executing the jar.
So basically, it's stored at a place where everybody can access it, right?
Yes. Everybody can process it.
Right. Okay.
Because accessibility is already there.
Right.
Replication is already there. Data is already there. My nodes or my clusters are already there. And my racks are already there. Everything is set up in one file format. Okay, but while executing, nobody is there to execute my code. Got it? Okay, Mukul is saying, so name node uses distributed cache to distributed jar to data node. No, not to the data node again, Mukul. Mukul, let me correct you. Not to the data node. This will be sent across to your mapper, which is an in part of your key value pairs only. So the data node is on top of these, and then that it will allow you to access the data. That's it.
Okay.
For processing, you need to get the distributed jar file cache, and then you send it to the mapper. I'm sorry, mapper will be taking care of this jar file and then execute the jar file, which is inside your data node. Got it, Mukul?
But the map class is into the jar file, right?
Yeah. See, format, that is how it should be, buddy. Or else how can you execute it?
Okay. Okay.
It should be for execute, so, buddy, the process is you need to look after storage, you need to look after processing. You agree with me?
Yeah.
Storage is done with the format of HDFS. Now for processing the data, somebody has to be there. See, for example, there is a Java program. For executing a Java program, you need a Java compiler. Without which you cannot execute the program. Likewise, if you have to process your data, there is something called as a framework, MapReduce. So this is how it is.
Okay.
Mahesh, if you can give us an example that can relate to all these concepts.
I am, buddy. I am coming here. See, I am getting rid of these entire theoretical concepts, man, because I don't want to go back and then give you a lame example back. I want to directly take you to the live implementation. So before that, you need to know what these concepts are, because when I directly say, I'm going into distributed cache, you need to know something about this. When I'm saying there is something called as recorder, you need to know something about this. And guys, one more thing, we have something else called as combiner. Okay. Even if you are confused, I will repeat it, guys. Don't worry. You need to know these all. No. And guys, combiner is a miniaturized reducer program. Okay. It performs something called as local reduce tasks. Let me write it, guys. Then I'll come and I'll explain so that you can read it. What is Mohammed, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're understanding, Mohammed?
Yes.
Is the input from the mapper on a particular node.
I actually had a diagram that I drew out in case.
I want to take you to the diagram also, buddy, but I am little scared where will you be casted away, because this is like a huge theoretical concept.
Oh yeah, no, I'd like if you want, I can show it. If not, that's no problem.
Oh yeah, sure. Always yes, boss. Enhancing the efficiency. Okay, what is it I was writing? Particular node and send reducer. Combiner. Okay, this is combiner. Combiner helps. Okay, efficiency of map reduce by reducing the size of data. Are you reading this, guys?
Yes.
And then comes one more small concept called as sequential input file format, or sequence file input format. And this is the last one. I want to confuse you right away. Are we cool with combiners? Are you reading the combiners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that you didn't understood here? Okay, when I say instead of reducing the size of data, let's write it. Type. Okay, let me say quantum.
Is this phase also called the shuffle and sort combiner?
No, buddy, no, please. But yeah, to some extent you can say yes, but what happens is when you're trying to shuffle or sort, it is pertaining only to a text format. Because sorting will be, say, in a logical format if you talk about in an alphabetical order or something. That is already done with indexing. Mohammed, you are saying yes for that. Hello?
No, I said not yet.
Yeah. Right, because guys, indexing is like a beautiful concept already handled in Hadoop. This is not a database, guys. Okay.
The mapper is just basically planning it out before.
Exactly, boss. It will plan and then it will allow you to do the reducing concept and then map it across and then to an independent cluster, reduce it, start combining, enhance the efficiency, faster execution, faster processing within seconds. That's what MapReducer is all about. I'm sorry, I should not say MapReducer, it's MapReduce. But as we term them separately as mapper or reducer, it's a MapReducer. Are we clear so far regarding the concepts, everybody, which we're going to work on tomorrow? Everyone, record reader, distributed cache combiner. I don't want to tell you on sequential file input format right now. We'll discuss this on tomorrow because I believe this is like going out of scope. Mukul?
Yeah.
Dhruv? You got the concept, Mukul?
Yes.
Okay, where is Dhruv? Dhruv, are you there?
Yes, Mahesh.
You're getting what we are discussing, Dhruv?
Yeah. Can you repeat combiner concept?
See, it's nothing but like once a mapper started executing your jar file using the distributed cache format, you will have something called as a node again, which sends the output to the reducer. Because executing, you will get an output, right? So combiner is a person who helps you in enhancing the efficiency of the MapReducer to reduce the data size and send that required content to any place which you ask it to send on. You use the reducer or use the mapper, it's up to you. It's something like, buddy, once a person has compiled the code, somebody has to show the output in a specific format at a specific location. Combiner is the person which plans accordingly and then does that for you. Okay? Got it, guys?
Yes.
Well, let's catch up on tomorrow. We'll discuss about MapReduce at a high level, and tomorrow and day after tomorrow are very important sessions, guys. Please don't miss them out. We are going to discuss about MapReduce and advanced MapReduce on tomorrow and day after. Yeah. Yes, Hemant.
Before you go, can I show you what I have here? So maybe
Yes.
if I
Yeah.
I am wrong, then I can at least get some clarification.
Hang on. Let me make this present. Okay. Here is in moment.
So you see my screen, right?
Yes.
So this is basically what I broke it down to as just the basic. Obviously, there's a lot more that probably would go into this, but it would be the input here and the block size of the block itself by the 64, 128, depending on the Hadoop that you're using. The record, it goes to the record reader, and I guess they talk back and forth, and it goes to a mapper, which has a combiner because there's a combiner for each one of the mappers. If there's 4 mappers, there's 4 combiners with them. And then after that would be shuffle and sort, and this would give you an intermediate value. It's just not done yet. And then it goes to reducer, record writer, Apple file. That's what it will be?
Yeah. In addition, after the mapper and the combiner, when they start off with, we have something called as reducer execution also. Something like,
okay.
What does reducer does is, it's a local task. See, a combiner, when you go for a combiner, as I said, it's a mini process done by the reducer moment.
Yeah.
What it does is it receives the input from the mapper onto a particular node and sends the output to the reducer.
Okay.
And then combiner takes control.
Okay.
So combiner helps you in enhancing the efficiency only when the mapper has sent that output to the particular node.
Okay.
By that content which you see on the node, combiner helps to enhance the MapReduce efficiency and reduce the data that is required and send it to the reducer at a high level. So that the moment it has reduced the content, and as you can see on the shuffle and sort, there is something called as reducer first. Hemant, when you were talking about shuffle and sort here, I said no, because reducer decides how to squeeze and where to send and which node has to be replicated back. So it is not completely done there. So output file comes only when the only when the combiner takes control and start enhancing the efficiency sent back to the reducers. It reduces the quantum size of the data or the required size.
So the combiner, it comes after the shuffle and sort, kind of.
Yes. I can't exactly say after shuffle and sort, because if something goes wrong, combiner always comes in between. Because even for an error-prone details, combiner has to give that back again, right?
Right.
Before shuffling and sorting, combiner process happens, and then it starts with the reducer, enhances the capability, send it, show the content of the data. Show the content of the node of your Hadoop cluster. Once I have the values, then comes the output file. Okay. Now, as you can see, there is something called as record writer also, but that is of not that importance here. But record, apart from the recorder, we do have record writer also. Okay. Yeah, Mohammed, that's absolutely fine, buddy. That's
Okay.
how it
I
goes.
just wanted to make sure I had the concept and like the order out right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A slight change in the place of combiner.
Okay.
Just a small enhancement. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mahesh,
Mahesh, if you can give us the instructions like you said, by tomorrow we can have it installed. Like it'll be even for all of us. Like
I
it'll
will.
be.
I will send it by your tomorrow morning, guys. It will be in your
Yeah.
inbox by tomorrow morning. By my evening, I'll be sending it to you. I'll send the document installation process. Okay.
Okay.
Or
And
you
also,
don't have to. Yeah, go ahead.
the files that were supposed to be sent on Saturday as well too.
Yes, sure. I'll talk to the organizer regarding the recording, and then I'll ask them to send it. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're pressed for time, you don't even have to write the instructions yourself. You can just point us to a link where the instructions are specified, just so that it's uniform for all of us.
Guys, it's something like, you cannot access the IP which I have. There is a firewall restriction. I'll download that copy and then send it back to you.
All right.
I'll download that Word document and then send it back to you.
All right.
Yeah.
yes, Mahesh. So I have Cloudera 5.5 and virtual machine, but that's a single cluster. That's a single node cluster.
Let me do one thing. I'll send both multi-node and single node.
But
You
you
choose
want
one.
us to work on multi-node, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, buddy. I will send the installation for both multi-node and single node. You go ahead and install it. It's up to you. Okay.
Okay. And
But
second,
but if it is with a multi-node, you need multiple machines, buddy. So you plan accordingly.
okay.
Got what I'm saying?
Uh,
Single node cluster, one VM would be sufficient. If it is a multi-node cluster, probably you need more machines, the minimum of 3 machines.
okay. So since I have only one laptop, I'll have to work on single node cluster. Right?
You will be able to virtualize your VM on one operating system, right?
Right.
Likewise, you need more machines with different operating systems, but VM will not support in that way, because clustering process is something, multi-node clustering is process something wherein you need more number of clients or slaves. Your machine being the master, everything will be slave. So you need a different IP. There is a huge workaround. IP should be always different. If you work on your VM, you will not get a specific IP constraint. That will not be a dynamic IP. It will always be a static IP. So that will be a hassle.
Okay. So I'll have to work on single node cluster. Okay.
No, it's not that I'm not pushing you or something, but I'm just giving you the environment setup here, because there are certain constraints. I thought of setting up an environment or a network so that we can play around in a multi-node cluster, but as I can see, it's taking more time than I expected. So as I promised him, it's taking more time. Let me see what I can do. I am planning to get the multi-node cluster only. I wanted to give you access, and then I wanted you to play around in that multi-node cluster. It's taking more time than what I expected. Let me see how it works out.
Okay. One last thing.
Yes, Mukul.
Yeah. If I want to communicate some doubts on weekends, do you have any email ID, or shall I communicate to Mike?
Please communicate to the organizers, because they restrict me to give email IDs and phone numbers. So no, I'm not supposed to give it. They will send a mail back, and you will get a reply within 1 hour for sure.
So Mike, right?
Yes, to Mike. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Please don't mind, Mukul. That's
Yeah.
all.
No.
I cannot go beyond that. Okay. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, Mahesh. So this whole Hadoop Architect 2.0 architecture and this MapReduce process. So if you can show us one example for each, that the flow is this for Hadoop Architect.
Not one example, buddy. We are going to work live on multiple instances of this node.
Okay.
So we're going to work on. That's what I just wanted to reconfirm regarding theoretical concept. I don't want to go back again to the theoretical concept, wasting our time here. We need to know the implementation live, how it works out.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And that we're going to do on tomorrow. Okay. And guys, please also go through the theoretical concept. Do an R&D of your own. Have grip on HDFS completely. Interview questions will be more on HDFS only. Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, guys. Let's catch up on tomorrow same time again. And Mohammed, by your tomorrow morning, Hemant, Mohammed, Dhruv, by tomorrow morning you will have your recordings available. Okay?
Okay.
Also the instructions, like if in case you forgot.
Yeah. Sure, buddy. The
Okay.
installation instructions, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I'll send it for single node and multi-node. That's what I'm saying. I'll send you the both documents.
Okay.
Okay. Okay then, guys. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh.
Bye.